I'm Brian Foster, and this is the Grindhouse Institute. On each episode of this podcast, Jeremy Floyd and I program a triple feature movie night. Each of the movies share common themes, and we discuss them here. We're happy you could join us for today's episode, entitled The Albert Cinematic Pyuniverse. Albert Pyun spent his youth traveling and living on various military bases around the world. His career began to take off when he secured an internship with Japanese film icon Toshiro Mifune, learning not only from Mifune, but also from Tako Saito, the director of photography who worked frequently with Akira Kurosawa. In the early 1980s, Pyun made his mark with his debut feature film, which became the largest independently financed movie of the year. This success set the stage for a prolific career, directing numerous films from the early 1980s through the 2000s until his passing in 2022. This episode is dedicated to celebrating the life, legacy, and remarkable work of Albert Pyun. In his quest for ultimate power, a merciless king enlists an ancient, malevolent sorcerer to aid in his bid for world domination. To prevent the kingdom from plunging into darkness, a young, swashbuckling mercenary armed with a triple-bladed sword must confront the sinister sorcerer, thwart the king's plans, and win the heart of the girl. Lee Horsley and Kathleen Beller join forces to battle Richard Lynch and Richard Mole in Albert Pyun's The Sword and the Sorcerer from 1982. To halt a devastating plague ravaging a post-apocalyptic wasteland, a skilled slinger is hired to escort a cyborg from what's left of New York to what's left of Atlanta, carrying the only known cure. Along the perilous journey, the mercenary must face a ruthless warlord and his gang, who are determined to keep the flames of the apocalypse burning. Jean-Claude Van Damme, Dale Haddon, and Vincent Klin star in Albert Pyun's 1989 film, Cyborg. In his quest to capture the interstellar criminal Sprug, a wisecracking space cop named Brick Bardo is pulled through an energy band that transports him and his foe to Earth, where they shrink to 1/6 of their original size. Despite the drastic change in scale, Bardo is determined to capture Sprug and show this new planet that size doesn't count. Tim Thomerson, Frank Collison, Debbie Alejandro, and Jackie Earle Haley star in Albert Pyun's 1991 film, Dollman. Thank you for listening to the Grindhouse Institute. Please enjoy.
Why the long faces? Good God, you've snatched a kingdom!
Welcome back to the Grindhouse Institute. I'm Brian Foster, and with me, as always, is Jeremy Floyd. Hello, and how are you?
So tell me, Brian, size doesn't count, does it?
Isn't that the best way to finish that film?
It was. Also, it wasn't the first time he loved making a tiny dick joke.
I think that was kind of the running gag, right?
Yeah, notice the theme in his work.
So obviously everyone that's listening already knows, but today we're talking about films from Albert Pyun. Pyun, writer-director, who found some extremely early success with a low-budget film that we're talking about today, and then continued to write and direct movies through mostly the direct-to-video B-movie market. Today we have a very special guest to talk about these films, a returning guest, Jeremy. If you could please do the introduction.
Yeah. Drum roll, please. We've got a series of fun, very B movies here, and this guest has been here before, and every time there would be a movie that wasn't up to the snuff of some of the other ones, he always had a lot to say. So I figured with these movies being all Bs, he'd have plenty to say. So please welcome back Chris Michael.
Oh, thank you. Oh, hey there. Yes, I am Chris Michael. I will say I'm turning over a new leaf for our good friend Albert Pyun, just because I want to be more positive. So,
well, it's been nice having you, Chris. We're going to get someone else who's ready to talk.
Wow, that was not what we were expecting.
We were not expecting someone to change midstream here.
I thought you were typecast at this point.
Yep, completely different personality. I'm going to be warm and glowing. I'm going to say nothing but great things about all the wonderful slow motion. I will say this.
Yeah.
Screaming?
Right off the bat, I think the key to enjoying the movie lineup that we have here today, Sword and Sorcerer, Cyborg, and Dollman,
is it D-U-L-L?
Is the ability to watch it at least 1.25x speed.
Oh, I see.
It's a lifesaver.
When you catch these on YouTube, you can just speed them up a little bit.
Just speed them up a little bit. 1.5 is you're rushing it. Okay, you
Yeah.
must have somewhere else to be. Take a beat, enjoy your life, smell the roses.
Yeah.
But 1.25 really does do something for it.
Yeah. And if anybody listening to this is trying to listen to us at 1.25, you can just turn it off right now.
I'm going
How
to
dare
talk
you.
really
How
slow
dare you.
so it
Yeah.
makes no difference.
That's right.
So as Chris mentioned, we are talking The Sword and the Sorcerer from 1982, Pyun's first film, the Jean-Claude Van Damme-led film Cyborg from 1989, and the Tim Thomerson vehicle, Dollman, from 1991. This was exciting because as a video store junkie back in the day, and watching a lot of HBO, these were the films that were always on. Those direct-to-video or those Canon pictures from Golan and Globus, they were those Kickboxer 2, Kickboxer 3, Art of blah, 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 American Ninja, etc. All those, I don't think they did that one, but there's a bunch in there that they did, and Pyun directed a bunch of them. And we've got a good swath, if you will, of his movies, Sword and the Sorcerer being his first, and Cyborg being one that he did for Canon. And then the last one, Dollman, he did for Full Moon Pictures, Charles Band's company. And that was also a big B-movie and schlocky type horror production company that he was working for. So I think we got a good taste of Pyun here.
Yeah, and we're bear hugging ourselves to the Grindhouse side of the Grindhouse Institute.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure. And I think that's also, in addition to watching these at 1.25 speed, watching them in a Grindhouse with a group of people are probably the environment to be watching films like this in, because they are, I mean, they're rad. He obviously had no money at all. I mean, Sword and the Sorcerer, he had quite a bit of money, actually, $4 million compared to his others. But Cyborg and Dollman were nothing.
Which, $4 million in 1982, right? I mean, adjusted for inflation, that's $4 billion today.
400 billion, I think, is the math. Yeah, you're off by a couple zeros there. But yeah. But no, I mean,
way to kill the joke, Brian. Thanks.
But he did end up making a lot of money, so on that one. So he got to continue his art.
Yeah, I first came across, I didn't even know, but as a child starved for comic book movies, specifically Marvel comic book movies, I was a frequent watcher of his rendition of Captain America in the 90s, which is, I saw an interview recently where he's talking about it and did not want it characterized as a comic book movie, but more as a character study, which, I mean, it was what I needed, I guess, at the time, because it was what I got. It's what I deserved for the Captain America movie that I wanted as a kid, until we got Chris Evans to take on the role. But honestly, I was surprised if he was going to do a comic book movie that it would be Captain America.
Why's that?
I just thought it would be Punisher.
Oh!
Yeah.
That's good.
I enjoyed that one.
He got close to doing Spider-Man. I guess that's closer.
He did. He was also slated to do Masters of the Universe 2.
Yeah.
And when that didn't happen, he used some of the costumes for Cyborg. So
I mean, I understand these movies can be a little schlocky, cheesy, B-movie for sure, but you can see that this guy had a complete vision every time these movies were made. And I feel like he, as they've said in some articles I've read, made peanuts into steak dinners, like it's really like taking a lot of nothing and this world building that he does. I think he's very good at. He always has those establishing openers or those cold opens that set everything up, whether it's a voiceover or not, but usually it's a pretty fun opener. All three of these have that, and they all have this like, this is the world you're in, just deal with it. They're going to have triple swords and, cauldrons made of flesh and people's faces and weird shit. It's just like, get it out there. And like, I think all of these are good examples of his way of making like a lot out of nothing.
Yeah. And, he's got, he definitely has a style of, having some sort of plot machinations going on that you think you're supposed to be paying attention to, but you shouldn't be because it has nothing to do with the movie. And it's basically quip after quip, after action scene after action scene, after screaming in slow motion after screaming in slow motion, and then cool devices and little unexpected ways in which the set pieces will take place.
I've heard about this custom-made monster for years. How does it feel to be on the other side, Doc?
I don't know. You tell me.
And then, in addition, I think the first one of his movies that I saw as well was Captain America. And still, I think, probably the best Red Skull. It was pretty terrifying in that one. And it's funny because that's kind of how we get introduced to the sort of main bad guy, Zusa, or whatever his name is, in
Similar,
Sword and
right?
Sorcerer.
Yeah, like melted
It's very-
crayons on top of someone's head. Yeah.
Yeah, very, very Red Skull looking.
That was Richard Mull from Night Court, of course,
Right.
as
Right,
we
Bull.
know. Yeah, Bull, exactly. I mean, there's some other Frank Fontana from Murphy Brown was also in that movie. He
wow.
played one of the soldiers. So yeah, Pyun was like always attached to like big actors. If you look at some of the movies he's had like Burt Reynolds, Charlie Sheen, Van Damme, obviously, but some of these like just huge stars. And then Chad Stahelski, who's huge right now, right, with John Wick and all that, was like one of his guys, one of his action guys, you know? So he
really?
got kind of in a Corman-esque way, I guess, you know, got those kinds of people started too.
Right.
And he kind of had a bit of a Corman in him outside of not so much being the tutelage side of things that Corman had in his production company, but the amount of movies that he was turning out was pretty astounding. I think 53 or something in like 10 years or something ridiculous.
I was about to say, like, it was something like that. It was
It's something
over
awesome.
40. It was insane.
It's awesome, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they're all a mixed bag of really odd shit, obviously. And I think these are good examples because they're all very different, but they all have very Pyunish things in them. One of those being a crucifixion, which shows up, I think, at multiple times. I know it shows up twice here. Potentially in
Cyborg
Sword
and
and
then
the Sorcerer, right?
It is in Sword and the Sorcerer.
Mm-hmm.
It is in Cyborg. What blew me away, though, is its absence in Dollman.
Yeah.
Because Dollman features a very badass, hard-nosed cop on a planet who then goes to Earth and comes out of his spaceship to realize that he's 13 inches tall in our world, and everyone else is, our height. And so he's at somewhat of a disadvantage.
Goddamn giants.
I wish I could get me a man who's 13 inches.
A 13-inch man? Are you sure it wasn't a dream? I'm serious. Come over tonight and see him for yourself. I'd love to see a 13-inch man. You know what I mean.
Right? Hello. But it would be so much easier. I don't know if you guys know physics.
Yeah.
But to crucify a 13-inch body would be so much easier than to crucify a fully grown man.
You could do with thumbtacks, yeah.
So for that to be the one movie where we don't crucify the hero is
that's a
little
good
odd,
point.
just because of the ease of it.
Yeah, it definitely missed opportunity. Yeah.
I mean, put that little elf on a shelf right there. Let him judge your kids. Missed opportunity. I bet there's a deleted scene somewhere out there. Pyun was also known for, he would make movies really creatively with not a lot of resources, but also, I think, not often allowed to have the final edit.
Definitely with Cyborg, right?
Cyborg, that was Jean-Claude Van Damme's team took over that to get the final version that we see. And the whole music changed from Pyun's vision.
Yeah, new score, yeah.
Completely new score. We can assume more gratuitous shots of flexing.
And I don't think any plague was in Pyun's cut. That was not the reason here. It was more just that Fender was just trying to keep the world a hellscape, and he was literally the devil. And like that's how that was edited in. He was just the ultimate evil, and that's, it was kind of like, almost more like The Stand than anything when you think about it, right? The ultimate forces at the end.
Just a little different than what ended up at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I was also surprised that Jean-Claude Van Damme was not the cyborg, the titular cyborg.
Yeah. Right. I thought this was going to be like Universal Soldier Part 1 or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, very much so, right?
Proving grounds, yeah.
Especially at the time when these came out, that's what I thought, but seeing this back in the day, it was like very different films, than
very
Universal
little
Soldier
Cyborg in this movie, yeah.
But what did you guys think of the practical cyborg effects there when she does the little the transitional wipe, and I thought that was actually a pretty smooth effect to change to the cyborg. And then it was, obviously the mannequin looks terrible, or the dummy, but so does the floating head in Dollman, but we can forgive it.
Yeah, but ultimately pretty good, and practical effects, they age well.
Yeah. I mean, you can touch them, right? They're real. They've got that gravitas to them, and it's just that never goes away. Like, it doesn't matter how old the film is. If there was a practical gag, it always will land, I think.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you think about the opening of Sword and Sorcerer, they're going into this cave, and then they see this almost, it looks like another rock at first, and then, maybe it's a tomb, and then like you get closer, there's faces carved in it, and we see a face in the mud that's carved in, and all of a sudden it pops its eyes open. And, it was just, a guy with mud caked all over his face, surrounded in plaster or whatever, but it read like it was supposed to, and it still stays that way all these years later.
Like a meat treasure chest, a face treasure chest or whatever.
And then when it, like, heated up and sort of cooked the guy in the oven to bring him back to life, all the rock and bodies that were stuck in his little tomb there also came back to life and started, whoa, whoa, whoa.
So good.
So they looked like those Fraggle Rock Muppets. Like,
the ones from Sesame Street.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what it was.
The aliens. Yeah. Yep. Chris, I was actually really interested to hear your take on Sword and the Sorcerer being a very into medieval swords and shields kind of thing, and that's your thing. And also, it's got very Dungeons and Dragons vibes to it, in my opinion. So, I mean, I'd love to get your take on it.
Yeah, it does. I mean, even to the point of having kind of not necessarily a lot of focus on who the big bad is supposed to be. There's multiple villains, and they kind of, by convenience, by hook or by crook, come together at the end in a way that feels like a dungeon master just doing their best to put a story in front of a bunch of chaos monsters.
We got about 20 minutes, guys. We got to tell the rest of this one.
Guys, my mom's coming. You gotta pick up the pace.
We ought a pizza.
Yeah, I really thought, is it going to be a sequel where the sorcerer comes through? Oh, no. It turns out this henchman guy who's had questionable loyalty the whole time was just the sorcerer, and he'll wait to spring his trap very ineffectively in the last 5 minutes. Got it.
But how cool was it when he sprung the trap and all the he looked like the Howling, just like a little
exactly. The flesh coming off of him,
breaking open at his neck and whatever.
It was very good. Another kind of D&D trope that was present in Sword and Sorcerer is forgetting backstory by the time the story actually gets going, where he saw as a young boy his dad was killed, his mother was murdered in front of his eyes, his kingdom was stolen, and his sister was abducted. And then he's like, but then I became a cool mercenary with then
I became Captain Jack Sparrow.
Nonsensical magical weapon.
I work for sex.
To his sister, right? Did we not?
No, that wasn't his sister. That was someone else's sister.
I don't know about
That's
that.
The 1.25, man. You're missing those details.
Yeah, you do miss some details. Let's caveat the 1.25 recommendation. Some of those details get glossed over a little bit. I will say one thing that did not age super well, but is the lavish attention paid to the male gaze throughout all of these films, but Sword and Sorcerer notably. A lot of just, beautiful women with nothing on.
Nothing, yeah.
Not that we don't have, he's also, I'd say, known for beautiful men with very little on. But
I was about to say that there's a lot, especially this one and Cyborg.
A lot of skin.
We get lots of greased up, Ripley muscled men. Does that help?
Fender is shredded, man. When he pulls off all of his chains that he's wearing, or whatever the hell that is. I think that was supposed to be Skeletor's outfit, by the way, to piggyback on your comment about that being Masters of the Universe too. But Fender, man, that guy. I guess he's a surfer in real life, but that guy was in real good shape. And then Van Damme he was a god at this time in movies, man. The early '90s like this.
This was right after Bloodsport,
yeah.
If Senzo Tanaka is his Shidoshi, then show us the dim mak.
What the hell is a dim mak?
Death touch.
Aren't you a little young for Kumite? Aren't you a little old for video games? I fucking love that movie, man.
We honor your invitation.
No shit, you honor his invitation.
But yeah, there's not a whole lot of acting in Cyborg, and I think that's why it's one of my least favorite of the three. There's not a whole lot of speaking in this one, but it's nice that Van Damme can just go and kick ass and show off his stunt work, because I think at this time he was still kind of a stunt man. I mean, he was the Predator at one point, right? I mean,
yeah. Well, listen, to defend some of the acting, or at least the presentation, compare Vincent Klin, or however you say his name, the Fender guy in Cyborg, compare his role in this to his role in Dollman, where he's, totally scary in Cyborg, and in Dollman he's just a total goof,
I guess that's acting, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
That slinger can't help you now. I'll take you to Atlanta, and you'll give me the cure. And if you don't, I'll give you the horror show.
So back to Sword and Sorcerer, we got male gaze and female gaze?
A little bit of female gaze, but yeah, definitely heavily male gaze, and kind of romanticizing some male on female violence in a way that's a little questionable in today's standards, but this was 1982.
Yeah, the age of Conan and Dino De Laurentiis films. And
yeah, there's definitely see a lot of Conan in it. You see some Errol Flynn, Robin Hood in it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like a love child between those two.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's crazy you say that, because this movie came out either weeks after or weeks before Conan the Barbarian, the first one, which came out a month before Beastmaster. So it was in 1982 was this sword and sorcery,
Dragon Slayers
year. And I mean, I don't know what to attribute that to. Was that Excalibur the year before? Kind of made a big splash.
I think that was a huge one.
It was hey,
Roger Boorman movie or whatever. Yeah.
Make the cheaper version. No, yeah, John Boorman.
John Boorman. Yeah. Yeah, that I think so, and I mean, I think that this is probably one of those things where a studio's we need to get our swords and shields, there's obviously money out there, and then they give it to Albert Pyun, and he makes $40 million for him. Well, $400 billion by today's standards. So
400 jillion, yeah, it's different, yeah.
Jillion.
Yeah.
Oh, I did want to mention. So a couple things from the show. We've talked a lot about Toshiro Mifune.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where Pyun kind of got his start. He interned for Toshiro Mifune, which is really interesting. And he was working on mostly for Saito, the DP, Akira Kurosawa's DP. He was doing work for him for a TV show, and that's kind of how he got his work started as a director, and then got into commercial work and things like that. So I thought that was interesting that he actually has some pretty high-end tutelage coming up through the system. And obviously, you can kind of see that in what he does.
Yeah, I wouldn't say on Kurosawa's level, but certainly you can tell he put a lot of emphasis on the color palette, a lot of lenses, a lot of composition.
Composition,
yeah.
I agree.
Some of those long lens Dutch angles, as much as he could do with some of those sets that looked a little claustrophobic, but then there seemed to be a lot of found sets of rubble and the ship and Cyborg and things like that, where he was able to kind of take more of that.
Right.
Kurosawa lens to it.
The found sets in some of these are just awesome. Especially that one with the ship and the derelict ship, or the dock ship in the middle of the beach there, where they hung Van Damme at the end. I mean, that's just a that must have been there, right? Did they find that?
Yeah, it didn't seem like they had the budget to build that.
That's what I mean. So some location scout saw that, and they're just just nabbed a shot.
I think part of it was that for Cyborg, they were going to be shooting the Spider-Man movie and the Masters of the Universe movie, and then those fell through, but they had sets and things ready to go, so he kind of wrote around the sets.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
I can appreciate that.
Totally. So, interestingly enough, I mean, definitely Pyun had, Japanese films in his influence there. I mean, for Sword and Sorcerer, I would definitely say that the Lone Wolf and Cub movies came into it. I mean, those were kind of based on a manga, and then became these, series of movies in the 70s. And it was often this crazy swordsman who was able to hide swords and have these little devices, and the stroller he was pushing his baby in came apart and became different weapons or whatever. And that definitely happened, especially in the third act of Sword and Sorcerer, where it's the giant three-bladed sword that had projectile blades. Also, you pull the
And
handle out and it
knives,
becomes
yeah.
another knife, and it transformed all the time.
But then was broken in half from a swipe from a normal sword, which begs the question, maybe you go for stability over three blades that are all cutting in the same direction and actually spreading the surface area out, which would make them cut less effectively.
Yeah, but listen, if you're chopping vegetables
the
and you want to get
blast.
that, yeah. you want to get the perfect
Just
nugget
three
of carrot.
perfect cuts.
Yeah. It is great for carrots. It would be it's a great carrot sword.
if you're making hash browns or like what's it called, the country potatoes, you want to have those things cut in a perfect cube.
The country potatoes from Sword the Sorcerer. Another interesting point, Jeremy, from some of your past learnings, I'd say, is that from Sword the Sorcerer, Pyun was asked to direct Total Recall. Or at least
really?
a version of it at that time. Yeah.
Oh, funny.
Ronald Shusett, right? Wasn't that the other writer? Or it was going to be that story based on the Philip K. Dick story. But then also William Hurt was going to star in that one. I think that'd be a much different movie.
Just a little bit, yeah. So Pyun, William Hurt in Total
Recall. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh man, I would have loved to see that take.
William Hurt is for sure. Yeah. William Hurt was big around this time too. Wasn't this Body time? 82?
Yeah, I think Body Heat was 81 or 82.
Yeah.
And then Altered States was around this time too.
So he had the sci-fi chops as well as the noir,
Right.
neo-noir.
But Total Recall, well, I mean, when it finally came out, I think it was 1990, 1991, something like that.
I thought it was 90, yeah.
And I know when we talked about Total Recall, Chris, you were with us, and you didn't appreciate that one as much of the time, but maybe you would have liked the Pyun version.
I think I would have.
I think so too. I think we all would have
joke.
really enjoyed it. I would love to see what that would have been. Just like I still want to see the other Dune, the Jodorowsky Dune.
The Jodorowsky one. Okay,
Yeah.
Well, are you guys excited about watching for Talon's next adventure?
Yeah, that little tease we got at the end.
Did that ever happen?
Yeah, there is a sequel, I think, to
really?
this. Yeah, I think Kevin Sorbo's in it.
As Talon?
I think Talon makes a return, the same actor, but Kevin Sorbo is somebody different.
Oh, Kevin Sorbo plays the bad guy?
He plays the bull character.
Yeah.
Is Pyun connected to that one?
Tales of the Ancient Empire, 2010 American fantasy sword and sorcery film directed by Albert Pyun, starring Kevin Sorbo, Michael Pare, Whitney Abel, Melissa Ordway, Ralph Moeller, who's also in Cyborg, Lee Horsley, and Victoria Moret.
Oh, yeah.
So it
And it's
did
a
happen.
Horsley did come back. Okay, good.
38 years later.
Yeah,
Now,
exactly.
did it have? Did the sequel also have endless micro dick jokes?
We get a lot of penis jokes, I guess, in Sword and the Sorcerer and Dollman, right? Because I mean, Dollman makes more sense, right? Just based on his size. But Cyborg, it's just, I mean, you've got men in there that are just perfect, so you can't really say much, right?
Well, also there was no dialogue. It was all just.
Fender's got the best grunt though. The grunt fighting in this in Cyborg is amazing. Yeah. This Canon group, the Golan and Globus. If you guys had HBO growing up or any videos, man, you've seen at least
some Canon
20
films.
of their movies. Yeah. They did a ton, and then Pyun did so many for them. I think that might be his biggest, maybe 20 for them or something. That all were like direct to TV, direct to video.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
For Canon, you mean? Yeah.
For Canon, yeah, exactly. Which was like, they did Night of the Living Dead, the remake of that, and they did the Masters of the Universe, the first one, but they didn't really put out any great movies.
Oh really? They did the Tom Savini.
Yeah,
Night of
that
the
was
Living Dead?
a Canon production. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting to hear for Cyborg that the Van Damme team decided, hey, why don't we change the music to something that's absolutely intolerable? Because the music made the movie hard to watch, honestly.
The movie is,
Yeah.
the music is terrible. Yeah.
And it's especially grating at 1.25 speed, I have to say. That did not do any favors for the of the music.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'd like to see the other version of this. I guess there is a cut of it, and you can get it from Pyun's website, but it's on, I don't know if they're old tapes, and nothing is remastered, so it looks awful. I guess the quality of this version's a lot better, but yeah, the story's supposed to be way different. But the same characters show up. I don't know if you guys noticed that the guy from Gladiator, Ralph Moeller, was in it.
Okay, that guy was just killing me. I was like, who? Why do I know that guy? Yeah.
Because I thought I knew who Fender was, because I was thinking back to seeing this movie way back when, and then watching it again, I'm like, I'm going to recognize who that actor is now. I don't know who the hell that guy is.
It was he was back off, War Child. Seriously, he was War Child in Point Break.
Yeah. Exactly. Falcon Diaz. Yep. But yeah, when I saw Ralph Moeller, I didn't realize that was him, and he's got the total barbarian thing going on.
Yeah.
I mean, he did play the barbarian in Gladiator, right? He was the
he was like he
trained
he's just kind of like training the gladiators, and like he had a little too much HGH or whatever for that time, and he really stood out in that sense.
He was in good shape. Yeah.
The
gods favor you. Red is the god's color. But do you know what his, and I didn't realize this until I was looking at the credits of this film, his character's name is Brick Bardo. And that's the name of Dollman in the next movie. Yeah.
Wow.
And I guess Brick Bardo, and I never knew this, is a name that shows up in a lot of Pyun's movies as like some character. There's a Brick Bardo in one of his movies.
It's not supposed to be the same character, just another Brick Bardo.
No. Yeah, just they just happen to have the same name, Brick Bardo.
I think that's such a great indication of just what a fan of cinema Pyun was with, I mean, how many references there are scattered throughout his movies, including self-referential things like that.
A fan of cinema.
The main character in Cyborg, Jean-Claude Van Damme's character, is named Gibson Rickenbacker. I assume that's just like, here's what I believe. And there's no one to refute me because Albert Pyun, unfortunately, has passed. But Gibson, a reference to William Gibson, the cyberpunk author of Neuromancer.
Oh.
Rickenbacker, boy, that sure sounds a lot like
Rick
Decker.
Yeah.
From Blade Runner. So, maybe that's just what's going on, referencing the greats.
I am sitting here looking at the names. Gibson is the name of a guitar. Rickenbacker is the name of a guitar. Fender. Yeah. There was someone else named Marshall, which is the amp, right? And that person's name is Marshall Strat. So I wonder if he's just, he's had a lot of...
Marshall Stratocaster.
Yeah. Maybe he's operated on several different levels here. But yeah, apparently some of the music, or at least some of the temp music, I don't know if he was going to be able to use any of this, was a lot more heavy metal.
Which would work for this, right?
Right. And then Van Damme took it over and put in...
It feels almost melodramatic at times that he should be like kicking ass, just absolutely kicking ass.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it seems like it would fit a lot better. And then, maybe that would also account for... Well, maybe it doesn't, because I guess it was re-edited. But I was thinking, it would account for some of the odd pacing at the end, where there's just a lot of like looking and screaming and like
constant
we're waiting
turns.
For something to happen,
they keep cutting to that same like turn.
Yeah, but if if you're in the middle of some heavy metal song and you're just waiting for the absolute like sick breakdown to happen, and then you can start kicking ass, it would make a little more sense. But with the music as it was, it wasn't really bringing the heat.
No, it was not. Yeah, I guess the other cut has the music because I think that's the original person that scored the film had those tapes that Pyun had originally, so that's how they recut it. But I'd like to hear what that was or was all about.
I was also interested to hear. I mean, that subplot of the fucking plague or whatever just wasn't in the Pyun version, and so it's like. Because it definitely
they
felt
showed
like
one person with the
what's
plague.
It doing there? What the hell's it doing there? Like there's no one suffering from this plague.
It was like they needed to create that. I don't want to call it a MacGuffin because it's pretty overt what it is.
It really is.
But they showed one person that's affected by the plague. That person can also sit in the same room as everyone else, and no one's affected by the plague. It's like
that's right.
I bumped into somebody with COVID and I was down for 3 days. So I don't know.
And somewhere there's a facility, we assume at Atlanta.
CDC,
that,
probably. Yeah.
And Atlanta is mentioned as a place where she has resources. She being the actual cyborg.
Right.
Is that Mary, right? Or no, Pearl
Pearl.
Prophet? Pearl Prophet, the cyborg, who leaves the CDC to gather information about the plague. She puts it in some type of microchip in her head, right, or something.
They were in New York. She gets all that implanted in her brain from New York, and they were sending her to Atlanta.
Yeah. So they have the technology to turn a human into a cyborg, but then she has to hoof it with one other person. Their resources are so depleted by that operation that they then walk on foot from Atlanta to New York.
But I mean, look at how that cyborg was built, though. She didn't even have a back of her head. Like it was like so shoddily put together. It's like, and then by the time that she actually shows that she's a cyborg, she looks like this, and she doesn't move her lips anymore. You know. So
and what's the advantage? The only reason she needs to be a cyborg is to have a place to store a little hard drive.
I think it's like Johnny Mnemonic.
Right, but at no point does the fact that she's a cyborg actually help her. She doesn't have like cyborg strength.
No.
She doesn't have cyborg speed.
Like in that second scene, it was like, oh shit, she's gonna kick some ass here.
No.
She's gonna show that she's a cyborg and she's
Nothing.
like the Terminator. No. Oh.
She in fact doesn't even really deliver.
She goes
a
with them willingly.
performance.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of how she is throughout the whole film.
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to help me anymore. You can't take me. I'm going to go by myself. I'm going to go with Fender.
Yeah.
I'll get him. I'll jump him when we get to where we're going. I got it all set up. It's all good.
Which tends to be, I'd say, another unfortunate repeated thing throughout these movies is a very ineffectual and quick to give up resistance on the part of female characters.
I was just about to bring that up. Yeah, totally.
Their resistance is like, I'm going to go along with you. Then a kick to the nards. That didn't work. Okay, I'm back with you.
Yes. I'll obey you. You obey this.
In every movie, it was like, oh, they're establishing this, woman that's like a badass, and then she would get in a situation and just be like, oh, never mind, I can't do anything. I'll cower over here for a second. Maybe this guy can help me.
Yeah, the kind of the climax of Sword and the Sorcerer, where there was an attempted groin kick, and that's when we knew it was the Sorcerer, because this turns out the Sorcerer does not, in fact, have nards.
Right. To kick.
And then she kind of just goes off to the side and gets wrapped up by a gigantic snake. Like, what in the world?
Yeah, that came out of nowhere. Yeah.
They weren't continuing the sort of micro dick jokes on that one.
I will say that the cyborg Pearl Prophet in Cyborg does deliver the film's closing line, which is something to the effect of, she's come back, she has the cure for the plague to save humanity from this disease. And she says to her friend in Atlanta at the CDC, as Jean-Claude Van Damme walks away into the sunset.
It's strange, but I feel he's the real cure for this world.
Which is very poignant, right? Because what that is saying is, as she has lost her humanity by becoming a cyborg, she is now viewing the world as needing violence to cure it, and further bloodshed, murder, and death, not an absence of death and suffering by the curing of a disease.
Right. And she also needs the guy who is editing the movie to be the savior of the world. Yeah, and I love how they get to we have to go to Atlanta. They can download this technology and create a cure and whatever, and they're just like this concrete ruined building with just like open holes instead of windows or whatever. It's just
clean.
Like, no, okay. I'm sure this lab is really gonna be able to synthesize whatever the fuck you got in your head there.
It's the future, guys.
Oh God. I see. Yeah. No, it was a lot of fun. And like you said earlier, Pyun loves to crucify his heroes, and so we have a somehow debilitating spike or whatever through a hand or wrist, halfway through the movie for the character who gets to break out of the crucifixion. And if Jesus only did that, he could have kicked some serious ass.
In Sword and the Sorcerer, all he needed to do was hold on to it and then pull, you know?
That's right.
Yeah.
You hold onto the railroad spike in your palm, and then you just pull out.
Yeah, that's
Done.
why that's there.
Yeah.
The Sword and the Sorcerer, he twice gets impaled in the hand. Once as a child, once as an adult, and miraculously does not get affected by either one.
He can use all of his fingers.
I mean, with the railroad spike, I would assume like a hole this big, right? Like,
yeah, it's gonna
gonna
leave a mark.
Size of a softball. Yeah, exactly.
Might have a scar.
There's a Bartlett pear-sized hole in my hand, but I'm sure I'm fine.
He kicks himself off of the crucifixion in Cyborg through his rage kicks to the 2x4 that is making up the crucified.
The mast.
The crucifixion, the mast.
He trained for that in Kickboxer.
And then immediately as he falls to the ground, Mary shows up to like help him with the ropes. It's like, could you maybe have
work on your timing a little bit, please?
Could you have said something before I did the whole kick the mast, land on my face thing?
She was just waiting there for him to kick it down.
I told you were gonna need my help.
I think I kicked my hip out. Can you pop that thing back in? Thanks for your help, though. Appreciate it.
How much leverage could he have had to kick that, right? Like, he was just like kind of nudging it.
Yeah. Not a lot.
Yeah.
Not a lot. But even a water can eventually break stone.
Asshole! I hate the water!
Well, they did such a great job of making Fender kind of terrifying, even though, a lot of it, he looks ridiculous. But they get the off-duty cop, Una glasses, sunglasses off. And he's got those like
white eyes,
those like piercing sort of white eyes, and they give him kind of a scary look. They in the flashbacks he had what I assume was his hair that he had at the time, and then they kind of tied it up in this bun and gave him dreadlocks in the back, and it kind of like it added a whole bunch to his look. He had that sort of Predator back half to the look.
Not to mention he's like 7 feet tall, and
well, he's like the only normally sized human amongst a bunch of people who are very short, like Jean-Claude Van Damme. And then you just see him, his like shoulders are so wide, even though, part of that was the costume. But even when he took his shirt off, you could also see he had these extremely wide shoulders. And his like giant muscle neck that was like
the traps.
A pure trunk. He looked like a telephone pole with a jawline. And that whole thing, just made him look really scary. And even though, sometimes he would say things that were unintelligible, like, I'm the evil, I have been to hell. Whereas, like, maybe those lines in and of themselves weren't intimidating. This one, at least for that character, went to the James Cameron, The Terminator school of how to make somebody scary is have them talk less. Just stand there menacing and unafraid of everything. Yeah, like this guy did, and all of a sudden he was this terrifying figure.
Also, repeated use of the same flashback where Jean-Claude Gibson is sleeping with his wife in the farmhouse where he had finally found peace, and then it turns out Fender and his goons were just watching him sleep the whole time. So
they look like a puppet show outside the window there, just staring in.
A bunch of creep balls.
Didn't you get a little Terminator vibe though from those like cobalt blue shots of Van Damme and his wife, and it was like flashbacks. Yeah. And
I so Van Damme gets put down the well. The girl can't hold the barbed wire,
which is his daughter, right? She's the one, or the friend,
it's
right?
It's his wife's daughter. There does seem to be some type of like hint that those kids were there before him, because there's a moment where the kids are like falling asleep in his lap, and his wife is like, "Oh, they like you," and he's like, "I like them," which is a weird thing to say about your own kids.
I forgot about that line. Yeah.
Well, no, because she hires Van Damme to like smuggle them out of the city or something.
Because that's what he does, right? He's a slinger.
And then they fall in love, and he just stays with them. But then everything gets messed up when Fender and the goons show up. But they lower him down to this well, and he climbs out of there, but doesn't save anybody.
Yeah, and there's even a shot then, which you might be driving towards, and I'm stealing your thunder.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
He climbs out. Then there's a final shot inside the well of the woman, and her eyes are open.
Right.
So indicating like she's alive. and could have been saved.
Oh, I thought they died down there.
He did too, apparently, but no, they lived for like another 6 days, maybe. I mean, there's some water source down there. It's a well, for crying out loud. They could have been down there for a week.
Sucks. They actually starved to death.
Yeah. Well, it was weird because, like, you know, they very slowly went down there. So so they didn't crash and fall, and that's what killed them. It was just that they were down there, and then they showed that shot of her, and it was like, okay, she could be dead, she could be alive. It wasn't very clear. Presumably she was dead, which is why he didn't bother to go back.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
But it was very weird. It felt like it needed another beat to let's explain this part too if we're gonna go there. Like, why was he still alive?
Yeah, not to mention if you leave dead bodies in a well, that water's not going to be good for a while.
That's not going to be good. Yeah, you need to get those out of there.
You just fucked up the whole community there.
Yeah. You should let your neighbors know as well.
You should put Post-it notes up.
Yeah.
That's all you need to do, really. That's the due diligence, right?
Do not open, dead inside.
Yeah. So should we talk about short actors, not in the sense of Jean-Claude Van Damme, but as 13-inch tall Dirty Harry types in Dollman?
Yeah, Dirty Harry type. Interesting. Stealing all of his lines, like, okay, fat man.
Go on out and get some air, fatso.
Yeah, definitely a Clint Eastwood impression going on there.
It's the most powerful handgun in the universe.
The Kruger something. The Kruger gun or something, yeah.
Right.
Wow! That's a Kruger blaster, the most powerful handgun in the universe!
That's right, fat boy.
Yeah, which is interesting because the Kruger is like Freddy Krueger, and Jackie Earle Haley ends up playing Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare remake.
That's right. It was all meant to be.
But in this movie, he portrays Braxton Red, who's a floating head bad guy. The rest of his body was blasted away. No, that's a different guy. Oh, that
was a different guy.
Braxton Red is the leader of the Earth Goons.
Of the Bronx gang.
That's right.
Yeah, Earth Goons. Yeah.
Who was the big bad? Who was the floating head guy? Oh, that was Frank Collison as Sprug.
Yeah.
Kind of a character actor.
Yeah, I think he was in... Oh Brother Where Art Thou? He played like the...
Yes, exactly.
She up in RUNNOFT.
Mrs. Hogwallop up in RUNNOFT.
The Majestic he was in, the whole 10 yards, all that stuff was around that time. Yeah. The Happening, that's a good one.
And you gotta love a third appearance. I didn't even know Frank Doubleday did another movie after Assault on Precinct 13 and Escape from New York.
You gotta do your Frank Doubleday, dude.
Yeah. He showed up in this one, and he didn't do his signature. But he was fat shaming a bunch of ladies doing their laundry and was hiding behind them.
You could hardly see him behind that in that little laundromat thing that they had going on.
I'm gonna kill these fat ladies. Hey, I am talking to you, shit brain. Somebody better get this moron out of here, or the fat is going to hit the fan.
So, is Dollman actually 13 inches from our perspective, or did he shrink on the way to Earth? Or is his planet smaller?
Yeah. I thought that the easiest explanation would have just been, they show up and they're smaller. But the ship, as it's dying, tells them, because you went through the Baka Baka Buka, you're now 1/6 the size of everything else. And it just got, I was like, wait, okay. Why don't you just show up and you're small?
Gulliver's Travels.
You come from a small planet. Yeah, exactly.
Gulliver's Travels, yeah, exactly. That's kind of what this is, right?
Warning, you have landed on an alien planet. Warning, based on sensor calculations of planet structures,
your size relationships are altered. This planet's life forms are a ratio of 6 to 1 larger.
He also, at one point says, I hate giants, which is like, okay, so this is not your first encounter.
Yeah, you've been to other planets, right? With giants. Yeah, this is a thing. Yeah. They exist.
Perhaps there was a deleted scene where he encountered a giant for the first time, and then he learned to hate them. and we just didn't get that. I don't know.
Possibly. But I like this one. Again, I was talking about that world building that Pyun does, specifically with the gun, the Kruger gun. One of the coolest things is that on planet Arturus, where we actually start everything, Dollman's planet, when he blows people away with that gun, they explode, right? Like into explosions. But when he shoots them here, it's still like an exploding bullet inside people's bodies. Like, it's still a pretty damn powerful gun, and it can still really wreck your ass.
Which is actually a good indication, just in the text, that if a gun that powerful shoots a 13-inch man, he explodes. But if he shoots a 6-foot man, he just gets a hole in his chest or whatever.
Still can mess you up pretty bad, though. It's the Kruger blaster here, 1000.
As opposed to the time rip that he went through shrank him or something, which is kind of what the ship seemed to be saying.
But the gun would still be powerful, right?
The gun would still be powerful, but relatively speaking, that same amount of power into a 13-inch body would just annihilate it, which is what it did when he was like, "Oh, just kidding, I have my gun," and he can, that was actually pretty cool. He puts his hand up and the gun just slides into it.
He's got a custom magnet on his hand that coincides with the gun, so if anyone else has it, he can just hold up his hand. The gun comes right back to his hand, which is kind of like also features almost like a Chekhov's gun magnet moment where we see it show up in kind of a random encounter in the beginning and then becomes a pivotal move in the climax.
Also Dirty Harry, right? The gun, the signature gun that Dirty Harry's got, it's almost a character in itself, and this is kind of...
The Magnum, right? Isn't that the gun of Dirty Harry?
That's Dirty Harry's,
the most
Magnum.
powerful handgun in the world.
I bet you don't know how many bullets I shot. So this is actually Brick Bardot as a lead, and not just the villainous thug or whatever we got in the original film. But this is a recurring character, Dollman, that also plays in crossover movies with other Charles Band movies, and so this is a continuing one. So if you want to see all the Dollmans, guys, you can watch a ton.
Yeah, the next Dollman after this, if I'm not mistaken, is Dollman versus Demonic Toys. Demonic Toys is in and of itself a separate movie, so it's a crossover movie. They were doing a bit of a cinematic universe there well before Marvel took that stage.
Well before Marvel. And a third of the money, if that.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, it does kind of show that these people that were making these movies really did have a love for making movies. They clearly weren't making a ton of money on them, right? I mean, labor of love, they call it, obviously, and this really shows. And I mean, Pyun, he worked for Charles Band forever, but Pyun, I mean, he worked up until quite literally he passed away. Like, he had 2 movies ready to go, and he was still producing and getting stuff off the ground by the time he died, unfortunately, of MS.
I thought it was very recent, like, November 2022. So yeah,
2022.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. I mean, brilliant creative guy here, doing a lot with with limited resources and putting the love of the game on every frame.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad that's appreciated, seeing these kinds of things, because I always thought that they were fun films, and I never got why, but there's something complete about them. They don't feel like they're just stitched together, or they weren't made by someone that really gave a care about the craft. And I think that's kind of how direct-to-video was looked at for quite a while. It is hit or miss, but there were people that were making a regular amount of movies on here that were really working and making good stuff, and he was one of them.
Real quick, though, that 13-inch dude, at one point he's surrounded by kids, and they're like, want to play with him, and the mother is being abducted by goons, and he says, "Get out of the way, kids," and he charges forward, crashes through a window, which this is a human window. Let's say it's an inch-thick pane, which for him is 1/13 of his entire body. It's like up. The thickness is that of like up to his knee, maybe. Like what is? But he just crashes through, no problem. Goes sailing down several stories, and catches himself on the car door and hitches a ride with the bad guys.
Yeah, and then that car drives.
That's correct.
And he's and he's able to hang on, pulling no G's. Just like getting hit by flies and wind.
He is an alien, guys. Yeah. So we should maybe Give him the benefit of the doubt.
I mean, I only wish that there had been like just a little bit more of like the dial of comedy and to get us to almost like a Team America like.
Yeah.
I wish someone had just drop kicked him at some point and just sent him flying. Like, I feel like we didn't get enough out of the fact that he was 13 inches to justify that he was 13 inches.
Yeah, you're
right.
I
mean, Sproob gets smashed like a bug. I mean, I guess you get a little bit of that.
Yeah. I love how he's like, I'm going to turn the tables on you. Or just kidding, I got smashed.
Yeah, no.
What did he say to him? He's like, you're in the wrong neighborhood, dickhead.
From now on, you work for me. You do what I say.
Work for you? You're in the wrong fucking neighborhood, deadhead.
But you're so right about that too. It's like they should have found another way for him to get to the final confrontation.
Ride a dog. It's right there.
Ooh, cool. Yeah. They probably didn't have the money for that one, right?
Oh, they could. Yeah, they spent all their animal budget on that 40-foot python in Sword and the Sorcerer.
yeah. On a totally different movie.
A decade earlier.
It all carries over. He was only given one budget for all these movies.
There actually was. There was one
out.
point. So Bob Weinstein had him, I'm going to get these details wrong, so if you guys know, fill in. But at one point, he was given a budget to make a movie, and he'd wanted to make like the fourth installment of a series he'd been doing, and didn't get the funding for it. So he was just like, "Great, I'll take this like whatever it was, $5 million to make your movie," and at the same time went ahead and made the other movie he wanted to make simultaneously.
Very Pyun move
with the
right
same
there.
Budget.
Yeah.
I mean, if that doesn't tell you who this man was, right there.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, I love that shit.
Yeah, no, you gotta, and I think for you, Chris, this didn't have the same impact it did for the rest of us. But like when you watch the final confrontation, where they kind of take him to that American wasteland outside of the Bronx, they were setting the trap for the Dollman. There's like 600 goons with machine guns, and one 13-inch Dollman that they were waiting for in the rubble pile outside of Manhattan. And Jackie Earle Haley is giving a monologue about, how he's the only one who sees this the right way, and da-da-da-da. And then they're like, okay, now we're going to sit there and watch the sunset for a little bit. Then we're going to go up and radio on the roof. Has anybody seen the Dollman? No one's seen the Dollman. Okay, just keep waiting. And like... And then we see the Dollman just waiting, and all the goons are waiting. And it's like, wait, what's going on? There's like 40 minutes of just waiting. Now, at maybe 1.25 speed, it went by a little faster.
Yeah, that didn't feel nearly as bad for me.
At 1x speed, it was a chore. I was like, okay,
this movie's 80 minutes. You
the
have to
movie
stretch
comes in
that a bit
at 82 minutes, and what they shot was probably 61 minutes worth of stuff. So they were like, yeah, okay, we got a shot of the sunset. We'll just play that for a few minutes. We got the establishing shot of this building that doesn't mean anything. We'll show that for a minute or two, and we'll just kind of stretch this one out. Including when Jackie Earle Haley goes to set off the doomsday device. And it was a very funny reveal that, like, it was 1/6 scale doomsday. Right, it kind of just blew up the room. And that was about it.
You just had to kind of get out of the way.
Yeah. I'll stand over here.
They took, like, 14 steps away, and they were absolutely fine.
Yeah. Just cover your eyes.
Yeah.
And it goes... Woo, 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 woo. And it goes on for 10 minutes.
Yeah. Clearly, that was a new After Effects effect that they had to play with.
I got this new plug-in, guys. Let's milk it. Yeah, all of the sort of script pages, I think, for the first like 40 minutes of the thing. The back half, they were taking one page and making it 3 or 4 minutes long. The final credit sequence, they would show a full-on, 45-second montage of each character. Put up their name, montage for 45 seconds, put up a name. It was like, wow.
Kind of like, yeah.
They're really milking it here. They're stretching this thing thin.
We got to get it to 80 minutes.
Yeah. But, this is like, a sort of a roomy episode of television stretched into 82 minutes.
I mean, and it was right to video. I'm sure there wasn't really... You don't need to hit a certain amount, I don't think, for video. Or I don't think that there was ever a...
Yeah.
If you want the theatrical release, you need that 90 or 80 plus.
Right, or maybe they're worried about a time slot for...
Exactly, yeah. That's what I'm thinking.
HBO or whatever.
Yeah.
Or, TNT, maybe. I don't know. This movie wasn't too violent. I don't think there's any nudity there, right?
not in this one, but Cyborg and Sword and the Sorcerer have some. Sword and the Sorcerer for sure, yeah.
Although I guess the bad guy, the head in the box or whatever, his thing was kind of gross when he gets smashed like a bug.
Yeah, there's some pretty gratuitous violence with those kind of explosions, but when has violence ever stopped anything in America?
Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
I mean, I would say that it's pretty tame by even Fargo, the television show standards lately. I mean, that show just gets raw, very, very violent.
Yeah, I will say, after watching the nudity in Sword and the Sorcerer, the nudity in that movie really made me excited for the type of sex scenes I was in for when I started up Dollman. I mean, 13-inch man, go nuts.
They even made a joke about it.
They did.
Movie.
It was one of the greatest disappointments of my life that there was not just a really raunchy sex scene. Yeah.
They cut it out, which is why they had to stretch the ending so much. Yeah.
I mean, it's where we were getting to, right? At the end, we just cut the...
Yeah.
It should have been an 85-minute movie, right? We could have seen what happened next. Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead, we just get the little 13-inch silhouette against the sunset.
And not the one we wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Debbie, tell me size doesn't count.
Chris, thank you very much. Really appreciate you coming and joining us for these three films. These were pretty special films to me, and I think that it was nice to enjoy them and talk about them with you. Really appreciate it.
It's always a pleasure anytime I get to speak with either of you, especially about our favorite topic, cinema. And what a champion of cinema in Albert Pyun. We owe a lot to him. You see that his movies here have definitely inspired a lot of filmmaking since then and during this time. And so hats off to him and his memory. And if you guys listening at home have nothing to do tonight or tomorrow night, throw in a little bit of Pyun.
Well said.
At what speed?
Start with 1. Start as the director intended, but if it's starting to drag a little bit, maybe crank that thing up to 1.25.
See
when you get to that last 5 pages of the script that gets stretched out 20 minutes.
Yeah, it was such a blast. Yeah, thanks for coming back on, Chris.
Absolutely, happy to do it. Happy to come back on again if I don't blow it.
Yeah, we'll see how this one does.
Sure. Yeah. We'll see what the numbers.
We'll get the box office. Yeah,
it's all analytics, man.
Yeah.
We got to get the V7. We got to get that view duration. We got to, be a business decision.
You know how the business goes. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for listening. Please make sure to subscribe and follow us on all the podcasts and social platforms at the Grindhouse Institute. And if you really want to give us a boost, check us out on Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating and review. It helps us to get noticed. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll be back next time.
Ciao.
To suicide.
Quiet, Crackus. Risking his life is his profession.
Risk, not throw away.
What's the matter? Is your sword too small?